Well, hello everyone. I wanted to get started with this next chapter and talking about things a little differently from everything else. And I may have mentioned this before, but in talking about consumers, everything we've talked about up to this point, pretty much everything, has looked at the consumer as an individual. What they sense, what they remember, what they're motivated towards, and so on. But now we're going to start to get into some different material because we're going to talk about decision making, okay, consumer decision making and the processes involved and stuff like that. So that's a big part of what this chapter is like. So this is sort of a different perspective, okay. I say again, consumers up to this point have just been looked at in terms of psychological principles, but now we're going to turn around and look at them in terms of decision makers. So I apologize. It says pretty much the exact same thing I just said just now. Okay. We talk about what is called the consumer decision making model. You need to know that term, the CDM, the consumer decision making model. All right. Because every purchase that you make is a decision. Okay. Is a solution, excuse me. Um, every purchase is a solution. We buy something to solve a problem. And here's an example that you see there right in front of us. The 5 steps, which we'll actually talk about a little bit later, one at a time. But first of all, we recognize that there's a problem. Okay. Uh, Once we know that there's a problem, the problem may be real or perceived, but there's a problem. Then a lot of times we go out and we gather information. Sometimes we search for an awful lot of information. Sometimes it's a routine behavior and we do very little searching at all. Once we gather our information, we consider all our alternatives. All right. And then basically we go ahead and choose and then decide if we like it or not. Okay. You see an old style example here. It's used in the book, but it does make a point, even though no one knows of black and white televisions anymore. But you're tired of a television. You go find out information about new TVs. You compare what you've learned, and you make your purchase and decide if you love it or not. All right. So every purchase is a solution, and these 5 steps we're going to come back to. Okay. Now, before I do, be aware. Be aware. Some purchase decisions take more time than others. Okay. Some don't happen quickly. Buying a house, that can take, weeks, months, or longer versus going to the vending machine and buying a soda. You look, you see the one you want, and you purchase it. So be aware that when we talk about the consumer decision making model, solving a problem, sometimes it's very quick and sometimes it's very drawn out. Another thing that can influence how involved we are, how we go through this process, is the consumer's level of involvement. Okay, how involved are we? Are we very much involved or are we not? Okay, uh, when decisions are made, based under different levels of involvement, it influences us. For example, we speak of what is called the behavioral influence perspective. This is very low involvement. All right, when decisions are made under low involvement, it's said that purchases are made sort of as a response to our environment. All right. A lot of basic foods, a lot of household items, you just need them. So you go ahead and you purchase them and you really don't put a lot of thought into them. Next time I go to the store, I'm going to pick up some milk. Hey, don't forget we need to get some Comet to clean out the bathroom or the sink. Okay, and you purchase it. You don't give it a lot of thought. Very low involvement. All right. Some highly involved decisions, such as for the right piece of artwork, and put that up there, to decorate a room, really may not work well either because, do you call it involvement if you're looking at paintings? Do you call it involvement when you're applying this experiential perspective? Okay. Um, it's not involvement, it's just searching for the right thing. And when you find it, you're happy with it, and so on and so forth. All right, so involvement is a very, very big thing. Sometimes the involvement level is very low because it's basic stuff. Sometimes the involvement level just comes and goes as need be. Um, when you think about it, and you come across a painting or something like that to dress up a room and so on. Another important aspect of the decision-making model is how much effort we put into a purchase each time we buy. Okay? You should see this model of consumer effort in your chapter, and it talks about what is called the 3 steps, sort of a routine response behavior, very habitual decision making. That's what routine response behavior is, very habit oriented. You just do it. You don't give it a lot of thought. Sort of limited problem solving. You look into things a little bit and consider your options a little bit and do a little bit of homework. To right down to the other extreme, which is extensive problem solving. Okay, where you put a great deal of time and a great deal of effort and a great deal of thought before making a purchase. You will see here that basically these things, this is a good little scale to show you the breakdown. The lower the cost, the more routine the behavior, the more habitual the decision making. As the cost goes up, we put more time into it. If we're talking more expensive products, all right, then we tend to do a lot of searching if we're going to buy a car, if we're going to buy a home, something like that. Do you purchase it frequently, or do you only purchase it on rare occasion? That's going to influence if it's a habitual routine response or limited or very extensive search. How involved with it are you? Are you buying it because somebody asked you to? Hey, by the way, when you run by the store, get me some hairspray. You don't use hairspray, okay? Or you don't use that particular brand. Low consumer involvement versus high consumer involvement. Is it a familiar product or is it an unfamiliar product? Does it require a lot of thought, or does it a little thought or a lot of thought? These are all elements that can influence a purchase, all right? And once again, I'm trying to keep these limited, so that's really all I'm covering for now. Effort, involvement, these things can have quite the impact upon how much time you put into something. All right, that's enough for now. Good luck.